We walk past, drive past, and fly over them every single day without a second thought, massive industrial plants. But deciding exactly where to pour the concrete for these behemoths, well, it's a precise, high-stakes science. Let's dive right into this explainer and untangle the multi-million-dollar mechanics of where global businesses actually choose to set up shop.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with a high-stakes location trap, look at the triggers for a move, and then map out the 9 critical factors. After that, we'll compare tangible versus intangible variables before wrapping up with the ultimate showdown, the factor rating tournament.
All right, part 1, the high-stakes location trap.
Look, we have to recognize right out of the gate that unlike a marketing campaign or, say, tweaking a product's price, choosing a plant location is an absolute unchangeable trap. I mean, once that concrete is poured, you really can't undo it. Think about it. Launch a bad product, you just recall it. Run a terrible ad, you pull it off the air. But plant location? That's a foundational strategic decision. You do the rigorous cost and benefit analysis, you make the call, and boom, it cannot be changed. No takebacks. And that instantly shoots the stakes for the business through the roof.
So, why exactly are the stakes so high? Well, it's because this decision permanently locks in massive fixed and variable costs. Just look at this breakdown. Literally 3 categories dictate almost the entire financial burden of your location. Materials? That's about 35% of the impact right there. Then land and labor each command another 30%. So what does this mean for us? It means getting this location wrong directly threatens that super delicate balance between overall risk and your ultimate profit. You are quite literally building your profit margins straight into the geography.
Moving on to part 2, triggers for a move.
If the risks are so astronomically high, you gotta wonder what actually forces a company to pack up and find a completely new home in the first place. Well, there's rarely just one reason. We're looking at 9 distinct triggers that basically force an operations manager back to the drawing board. Sometimes it's actually really exciting stuff, like you're a brand new startup, your business volume is just soaring, or you've totally outgrown your original facilities because customer demand is off the charts. But other times, it's about daunting external pressures. Maybe your lease is expiring. Maybe local government taxes have become way too burdensome. Or, in some cases, the local depletion of raw resources means you literally have to move your plant just to survive. So, whether it's explosive growth or just basic survival, these are the 9 triggers that set the whole massive move into motion.
Part 3. The 9 critical factors.
Okay, so the trigger is pulled, but operations managers can't exactly just throw a dart at a map and call it a day, right? They are suddenly faced with this dizzying array of competing operational factors. Take a second to really look at this complex web. You've got to track everything from proximity to your market, meaning getting right up close to those fast access customers, to minimizing transport costs by staying near high-quality suppliers. Oh, but wait, you also have to consider the labor pool. Do you need highly skilled labor that cuts down on training costs, or just high availability so you aren't spending a fortune on hiring? And don't even get me started on utilities. Electricity, water, gas, these are massive rent inclusions. An operations manager is essentially trying to perfectly balance a scale that has 9 different, highly volatile weights on it, all at the exact same time.
Which brings us to part 4, tangible versus intangible variables.
Now we step into the next phase of the decision-maker's journey, where things get, well, messy. We somehow have to compare apples to completely different oranges. This is where the headache really begins for corporate strategists, because we have to cleanly separate our data into 2 columns. Over on the left, we've got our tangible factors. These are beautiful, crystal-clear numbers, money and units. You know exactly what a worker's wage is, what a ton of raw material costs, the rent, the transport fees, it's all right there. But then, on the right, we have intangible factors. These are qualitative. I mean, how do you even measure the exact financial value of being near an airport, or the general entrepreneurship vibe of a local community, or how supportive a local government might be with future incentives? It's tough.
And that brings us to the ultimate operational paradox. Seriously, how on earth do you mathematically compare these 2 wildly different columns of information to make a final concrete choice? You absolutely can't just slap good vibes from the mayor on a spreadsheet right next to $500,000 in steel costs and call it a day.
So how do they do it? Part 5, the factor rating tournament.
To resolve this massive tension, we don't just guess. No, we enter all of our potential locations into a ruthless mathematical competition. Operations managers use a tool called the factor rating technique. Now, the official definition describes it as a systematic technique for evaluating alternatives based on predefined criteria. But honestly, I like to think of this as a high-stakes tournament. Locations are literally battling it out through weighted scores to prove they are the single most favorable choice. Absolutely nothing is left to a gut feeling.
And to translate all those abstract strategic thoughts into finalized, rock-solid mathematical decisions, we follow this exact step-by-step procedural flowchart. We start over on the left with our tangibles, we move into the middle to tackle our intangibles, and then finally, we integrate the whole shebang on the right. Let's actually zoom in on exactly how a location scores points in this tournament. Starting with the tangible factors, the math is pretty straightforward, and frankly, quite ruthless. First up, you calculate the total absolute cost for each potential location. Let's say location A is $1 million, and location B is $2 million. Next, you rank them. It's kind of like golf, right? The lowest score, or in this case cost, gets the highest rank, so a rank of 1 is assigned to the absolute cheapest option. Then, you convert those ranks into a merit score. Basically, the location with the lowest combined cost of labor, transport, and materials automatically snags the most merit points for this round.
Now, to solve the unmeasurable problem for those tricky intangible factors, managers basically have to force opinions into hard, calculable scores. Here's how they do it. First, they rank the importance of the factor itself, giving it a baseline weight, like, is a nearby port actually more important than government subsidies? Then, they look at the locations and assign an arbitrary 1 to 5 rating. Excellent is a 5, poor is a 1. You take that assigned weight, you multiply it by that 1 to 5 rating, and suddenly, like magic, you have a solid numerical score for something as vague as infrastructure quality. The location with the highest total score in this category? They win the intangible merit points.
Okay, let's see how this all builds up into the final ultimate showdown, the integrative method. This is where the executive team steps in and assigns what we call master weights. They have to ask, what matters more to the company overall? Is it cold hard cash, or is it qualitative infrastructure? If cost is king, tangible factors get a much higher master weight. You then multiply these overarching master weights by the merit scores each location earned in those previous rounds. And finally, you calculate the grand total score.
Which brings us to the final scoreboard. In this matrix, location A emerges from this incredibly complex operational gauntlet as the ultimate champion destination, securing that coveted #1 rank. You know, it might not have been the absolute cheapest, but perhaps its incredible infrastructure and government support just pushed its weighted score over the top. Or, hey, maybe it was the cheapest and that tangible weight just completely bulldozed the competition. Either way, the decision is now purely mathematical, completely defensible, and, most importantly, final. When you step back and look at the entire process side by side like this, you can truly appreciate the massive journey an organization takes. On the left, you've got this huge high-level web of global demographics, intricate supply chains, and customer proximity. And on the right, that funnel that magically distills all of that absolute chaos down to a single mathematically victorious location. It really is just a stunning example of structured problem solving.
So what does this all mean for us? Well, it completely changes how you view the industrial landscape around you. Seriously, the next time you're driving down the highway and you see a massive million-square-foot facility being constructed, you will know for a fact it's not there by accident. It really begs the question, what specific tangible and intangible variables, what exact combination of labor costs, 5G connectivity, and tax incentives crowned your local facilities as the undisputed champions of their own hidden tournaments? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep analyzing the world around you, and I'll catch you next time.